The sky over Earth was darker than usual. Not for lack of sun or storm, but for grief. Every screen, every broadcast, every orbital light above the major cities dimmed to black. 1 minute of silence stretched into hours. Humanity wasn't mourning a war. It was mourning a massacre. 99 million dead. Not soldiers. Not combatants. Civilians. Children turned to vapor. Doctors crushed under collapsing hospitals. Cities reduced to bone ash across 5 colonies. Mars, Europa, Sirius Prime, Ceres, and Halcyon Drift were now graveyards spinning through the void. On the surface of Earth, waves crashed against the ruined Atlantic Wall, a symbolic defense line once meant to protect against asteroid strikes. It had never been touched. Not until the Draugr and their Sarkin dogs bypassed it entirely and incinerated Sirius Station with their necroflare technology. The UN Coalition Council chamber echoed with muted tension. "We need to show restraint," Chancellor Elmar of Europa insisted, his voice thin. "Retaliation will escalate things." "They've already escalated," replied Commander Lee, her fingers trembling as she gripped the edge of the podium. "They erased 1/5 of our outer population." President Sorrell exhaled heavily. "We can't afford another galactic war. We've built peace. That matters." Jack Callahan sat in the back, silent, unmoving. The chamber's light glinted off the silver prosthetic at the edge of his jawline, a souvenir from another war humanity pretended never happened. He had listened long enough. He stood. The murmuring stopped. Even Elmar quieted. "You think this is peace?" Jack's voice was low, even, and colder than the Martian wastes. "You think they'll stop because we send them words? They slaughtered 99 million of us. There's no diplomacy left. There's only debt." Elmar opened his mouth to speak. Jack didn't wait. He walked out. Vault Aegis didn't exist on any map. Buried beneath the Andes, masked under a geothermal research shell, it was a ghost. One of Earth's forbidden contingencies. In the decades since the Concorde, it had become legend, a tale politicians whispered and denied in the same breath. Jack keyed in his retinal scan. The old steel doors hissed open. Cold air hit his face like a slap. Inside, racks of weaponized exosuits shimmered under dim white light. Tactical AIs blinked awake. A cracked photo sat on one of the lockers, a little girl with curly hair and paint on her face. She wore a crown made of tinfoil. His daughter. Her name was Ava. Jack didn't look at the photo long. He pulled it off the locker, folded it once, and slid it into his vest. "Activate Revenant Protocol," he said. The system responded. "Command recognized." "Welcome back, Boogeyman." Thousands of kilometers away, the winds howled over the Siberian flats. Snow danced between shattered concrete pillars where a missile silo once stood. The woman moved through the ruins like a shadow. Her breath fogged the air. Her blade, hand-forged, polished obsidian, cut through the silence with each movement. Sergeant Alia Morozova didn't cry for the dead. She memorized them. Each strike of her blade was a name. Each movement a promise. The last was for her daughter, torn apart by vacuum when the Martian school domes failed under Sarkin bombardment. She heard it before she saw it, the faint whine of quantum displacement. A matte black drone emerged from a ripple in space, hovering with perfect stillness. It dropped a small cube into the snow. A red light pulsed once, then opened. A hologram blinked into life. "Revenant Protocol activated. Code Black. Unrestricted strike authorization." Alia stared. She didn't speak. She wiped her blade clean, strapped it to her back, and walked toward the rising storm. Back on Earth, news feeds ran muted broadcasts, parades of coffins, columns of names scrolling endlessly. The world didn't know what to do with silence. It wanted someone to shout. It wanted monsters to blame. It didn't yet understand what monsters looked like. But somewhere in the dark, beneath Earth's skin, above its clouds, across its stations, the old names began to move. Encrypted comms lit up across the shadow networks. "Boogeyman active. Baba Yaga inbound. Hell is open." Let the reckoning begin. Inside Vault Aegis, Jack stepped into the suit. It molded around him like memory. Reinforced carbon plate. Neuro-response threading. Hydraulics built for war. The AI's voice returned. Combat readiness at 97%. Authorization code accepted. Operation Revenant live. He nodded. I want their forward bases bleeding before the week is out. I want their AI screaming in confusion. And I want every Sarkin warlord whispering my name in their nightmares. Outside, the world stayed dark. But in the hidden corners of the galaxy, soldiers turned warlords, monsters turned myths. They began to feel something cold crawling through the edges of their thoughts. A fear they had buried too early. A legend they thought had died with the peace accords. In a silent command center orbiting high above the Pacific, a general watched the ghost pings reappear on old deep space radar. He leaned forward. Whispered to himself. They should have let us sleep. The sky above Cinderhold turned red just before the storm hit. Orbiting a dead moon on the edge of Draugr-controlled space, Cinderhold was more prison than military base. Built from slag and sharp corners, it housed fuel cells, interrogation bunkers, and a constant scream of static from corrupted AI cores humming below the surface. Sarkans ran the show, tall, scaled brutes in rigid exoarmor, their tusks carved with kill counts. Most had grown comfortable here. Comfort was about to bleed. 2 days earlier, Aegis Vault briefing room. Cinderhold is where it starts, said Commander Lee, pointing to the hologram. Jack and Alia stood opposite her, suited in partial gear. Jack's fingers were wrapped in haptic gloves, twitching slightly. Alia said nothing. Her eyes never left the display. They rotate their fleet support through there. Fuel convoys. Security codes. Prisoner logs. If we get the heart, the arteries collapse. And the prisoners? Jack asked. Most are civilians. Martian resistance. We can't extract them without setting off alarms across 3 sectors. Jack nodded. We'll do it quiet. You won't even know we were there. Lee stared at them a moment longer. You're ghosts now. Officially, you're dead. If you're caught, we won't be, Alia said flatly. Jack was already walking out. Let's go hunt something. Present, inside Cinderhold. No alarms. No signs. The infiltration was flawless. Jack dropped from the cargo ring using a grav chute, landing silently on the upper scaffolding of the supply deck. Alia was already inside, having crawled through the waste filtration vents hours earlier. They moved through shadows and heat trails unseen. Their suits adjusted light patterns to mimic the walls. Breathing barely registered. No sound, no trace. The enemy didn't know the war had restarted. Jack accessed a security terminal. It pulsed once, refused him, then melted under a silent virus injection. The screens flickered, then looped camera feeds. Perfect. He sent a tight band comm to Alia. Shields down. Corridor 7 clear. You're good. Her reply was static, deliberate. She never used words when killing was involved. The first target was the command station, a circular pit manned by 3 Sarkin officers and 1 Draugr synth. Jack dropped into the center from above, impaling one through the spine with a monoblade before they could scream. The others turned, claws drawn, too slow. His left wrist hissed. A burst of electroshock tagged the second. The third went for a pulse rifle. Jack shot him twice in the throat. Silent rounds. Clean. The Draugr synth didn't fight. It hissed in binary and tried to override the controls. Jack opened a breach in its cranial housing with a single strike. The synth collapsed, eyes still twitching. A security notice pulsed across Jack's visor. System override successful. Reactor core exposed. He planted the first charge. Alia moved differently. If Jack was surgical, she was spectral. She entered the prisoner quadrant without opening a door. The vent shaft behind her was scorched from laser welds, but she didn't look back. Her blade was already drawn. 2 Sarkin guards walked the hallway, bored, chatting in low tones. Alia's first strike severed the taller one's head mid-sentence. His body hadn't hit the floor before she stabbed the second through the back, twisting as she silenced his last breath. The prisoners inside didn't cheer. They didn't move. They had been taught silence. Alia opened the nearest cell. The girl inside, maybe 16, Martian accent, stared up at her. Fear flickered behind her eyes. "Who are you?" she whispered. Alia knelt. "No one," she said. "But I'm the reason you'll live." She handed the girl a shock baton and moved to the next cell. In under 8 minutes, all charges were set. Reactor, communication core, fuel silos, atmospheric processors. Jack met Alia in the main hangar. 40 prisoners followed in their wake, all silent, all armed. "Extraction in 90 seconds, Jack said. "Run quiet. Run fast. If anyone lags..." "They won't," Alia said, leading them forward. The alarms never went off. But the explosion would make sure the silence didn't last. 1 hour later, Deep Space Transmission Array, untraceable channel. The hologram flickered. A Draugr official appeared, eyes hollow, voice mechanical. "You are the ones they call ghosts. We know what you've done." Jack leaned forward, face bathed in red light. He said nothing. The Draugr continued. "You believe fear is a weapon. We have evolved past fear." Alia stepped beside Jack, her voice calm. "Then you haven't faced us yet." She tapped the console. A new feed played, slow-motion footage of Cinder Hold vaporizing into ash. The Draugr watched silently. "We're not coming for peace," Jack said. "We're not looking to negotiate. We're here for memory." "What memory?" "The 99 million you burned." 3 days later, Sarkle Fleet Command, encrypted broadcast. "We repeat, Cinderhold has been destroyed. All hands lost. Video logs suggest infiltration. Identity of assailants, unconfirmed but matched to old Concord war profiles. Codename Boogeyman. Codename Baba Yaga." Silence in the war room. One Sarkin officer growled, tusks twitching. "Impossible. Those were myths. Dead for 20 years. Another officer played the footage again. Shadows moved like fluid. A blade flashed. A man in dark armor dragged a screaming Sarkin commander across the floor before vanishing into flame. The silence grew thicker. Then came the whisper. "They're back." Final scene, Earth orbit, classified debrief channel. Commander Lee watched the reports with clenched fists. Civilian morale was rising. Underground resistance cells were asking for contact. The galaxy was reacting, and it wasn't ready. A tech approached her desk. "Ma'am, what do we call this?" Lee turned from the screen, eyes hollow. "Not a war," she said. "A reckoning." Sarkle High Command called it the Vengeance Maw. A city-sized dreadnought with teeth of plasma and armor thicker than a moon's crust. It pulsed with ancient necrotech, its core powered by living minds harvested from conquered systems. Orbiting the dead star of Osiris 9, it served as the Sarkin hegemony's mobile capital, execution ground, and symbol of dominance. For Jack Callahan and Alia Morozova, it was a tomb waiting to be sealed. Inside a stealth shuttle stitched together by old Earth Black Ops engineers, Jack adjusted his wrist gauntlet. The final mission parameters blinked across the screen. Heat signatures, weak points, timestamps. Everything timed to the second. "We'll hit the power conduit first," he said, voice low. "They have quantum response lag between upper and lower decks. 90 seconds to disable core defenses." Alia sat opposite him, knife in hand, drawing slow lines across her palm. She wasn't bleeding. The blade was memory-coded, mapping neural rhythms to prep her mind for the coming chaos. "You take the bridge," she murmured. "I'll handle the whispering one." Jack nodded. "We don't come back unless the maw burns." Infiltration began in silence. The shuttle detached from a derelict mining rig and drifted until it kissed the dreadnought's underbelly. Its hull shimmered with bone-white ridges, like a serpent turned to steel. A laser cutter sliced a perfect circle through the maintenance hatch. Jack slipped through first. Alia followed without a sound. Inside, the ship breathed. Not metaphorically. The maw breathed. Walls pulsed with organic tubing, the air humid and pulsing with a heartbeat rhythm. Screams, faint, far, vibrated through the floors. Jack activated his neural dampeners. "It's feeding on the prisoners." "Then we starve it," Alia whispered. The first encounter came fast. A patrol of Draugr synthetics, human-shaped but hollow-eyed, arms replaced with bone rifles, rounded the corner near the conduit station. They didn't speak. They just charged. Jack opened fire with precision, every bullet laced with white noise disruptors. The first two dropped instantly. The third reached him, too close. Its claws slammed into his side, slicing through one layer of armor. Alia moved before it struck again. Her blade entered under the jaw. The Draugr spasmed, split apart, and hit the floor in twitching silence. 15 seconds lost, Jack muttered. "We'll make it up in blood," Alia replied, already moving. The Vengeance Maw responded. Lights shifted from red to black. The ship's AI began whispering through the walls. Not words, voices. Familiar. Cruel. Alia froze mid-step as her daughter's voice echoed softly from the vents. "Mama? Why did you leave me?" She didn't blink. Didn't flinch. "I didn't," she said coldly. "You were taken. This is just your killer pretending." She stabbed the nearest wall. The whisper died. At the bridge level, Scarzell waited. Over 8 feet tall, plated in ancient armor laced with conquest glyphs, he stood beside a tactical projection of Earth's colonies. Red X's marked the ones already destroyed. He heard the breach before the alarms caught it. His guard turned, then screamed as Jack emerged from the elevator shaft, tossing a shock mine into the command pit. Chaos followed. Plasma bolts ripped the air. Jack weaved through them, tossing explosives into shield generators. The room tilted as gravity destabilized. Scarzell roared and leapt into the fray. "You are the myth!" he bellowed. "The human nightmare!" Jack fired twice into his chest. The rounds sparked useless. "Not a myth," Jack growled. "A correction." They fought across the fractured bridge. Scarzell slammed Jack against the wall, cracking his ribs. Jack retaliated with an arm blade to the thigh. Sparks flew. Blood spilled. Still, Scarzell laughed. "You're just a man. Broken. Alone." Jack grinned through bloody teeth. "Funny. That's what the last Sarkin general said. Before I crushed his skull." He triggered a microcharge on Scarzell's back. The explosion tore through the armor. The warlord staggered. Jack didn't stop. He lunged, wrapped an arm around the alien's throat, and twisted. The crack echoed. Scarzell dropped, lifeless. Jack stood over him, chest heaving. "Tell your gods. Earth sends regrets." Below deck, Alia faced something worse. The Whisperer. It wasn't flesh. It wasn't machine. It was presence. A mass of voice, memory, and light wrapped into a floating creature made of broken minds. It hovered in the core chamber, feeding on psychic data streams. It turned toward her without eyes. "Your guilt feeds me, Baba Yaga." "Then starve," she said. She advanced with blades humming. The Whisperer struck with illusions, her daughter screaming, Jack burning, her home collapsing, but Alia had trained for silence. Her mental firewall burned white-hot. She closed the gap. One slice. Then another. It recoiled, fracturing. "You will die knowing nothing was enough." "No," she whispered. "You will die knowing I made you bleed." She stabbed upward through its center. The Whisperer burst apart in a howl of stolen memories. 10 minutes later, they met in the shuttle bay. Jack limped, helmet cracked, suit scorched. Alia's face was streaked with sweat and ash. Her blade dripped black. "Bridge is down," Jack said. "Core is silent," she replied. He pulled the detonation trigger from his belt. "Ready?" Alia nodded once. "Do it." From orbit, the maw burned. A rupture bloomed in its side, then collapsed the center. The explosion sent fragments spiraling into Osiris-Ix's magnetic ring. Across the galaxy, listening posts caught the echo. Humanity had struck at the heart. Not with fleets. Not with declarations. With two monsters dressed in flesh. Final scene, Alien Senate, unnamed system. A transmission played across the room. A human voice. Jack Callahan? To those who slaughtered our people. You thought Earth was weak. You thought we'd buried our demons. You were wrong. We don't bury them. We teach them to wait. A second voice followed, softer, deadly. Alia. And now, they've come for you. The ashes of the Vengeance Moss still drifted across Osiris-Ix's orbit, casting shadows that reached halfway across the system. Wreckage spun like broken teeth. High Warlord Scarzel was gone. The Whisperer was dead. The core of the Sarkandrogra alliance lay shattered in space. The war wasn't over. But everything had changed. On Earth, President Sorrel stood in the Situation Room, watching the looped footage in silence. The detonation. The silence that followed. The voice of Jack Callahan echoing through every broadcast in the Sol system. We don't bury our dead. We remember them. We become them. Behind her, the UN Council remained stunned. The Hawk sat vindicated, the Dove sat defeated, and the neutral parties finally had nothing left to hide behind. Status of the galaxy? She asked. General Lee, face lined by sleepless nights, answered without ceremony. Collapse in the Sarkan border fleets. 2 colonies have declared independence. Civil unrest across 3 Draugr systems. They're running scared. Retaliation? No movement. Not yet. But they know now. We're not just capable of war. We're worse than they remembered. The Earth broadcast went viral. Every major colony, every human fleet, every listening post between Mercury and the Kuiper Belt tuned in. They didn't see heroes. They saw shadows. Callahan, limping through fire. Morozova, face unreadable as she watched the Whisperer die. The names that once lived in war crimes files were now etched into legend. On Europa, a 10-year-old boy carved Boogeyman into his toy ship. On Mars, protest banners shifted from peace at any cost to let them remember why they feared us. On Sirius Prime's remains, survivors gathered under artificial domes, weeping not for loss, but for justice finally spoken in their name. Far beyond, in a hidden system where the Draugr rebuilt their thought nests, a gathering was underway. They whispered across quantum channels, surrounded by data ghosts. They're supposed to be extinct, one hissed. They were dormant, another corrected. Now they're awake. What do we do? No answer came. Because nothing in the simulations had prepared them for humanity remembering what it was capable of. Meanwhile, inside a classified deep space relay station orbiting Titan, a soldier watched the encrypted feed for the 20th time. The video was stripped of music. No edits. No narrative polish. Just raw footage from helmet cams. Alia slicing through synthetic soldiers in total silence. Jack dragging a wounded Sarkan commander across a floor streaked in blood. The Whisperer's final burst. The maw collapsing inwards like a dying star. The young soldier, call sign Vega, turned to his instructor. Are they coming back? The instructor, an old war vet with half a face replaced by carbon plate, stared at the screen for a long moment. No, he said. But someone will have to be them again. Somewhere deep in uncharted space, inside a decommissioned Black Ops carrier long erased from Earth records, Jack Callahan sat with his eyes closed. The hum of the ship's engines pulsed like a heartbeat. He had changed suits. No armor. No weapons in hand. Just the weight of silence. Alia entered quietly. Sat across from him. For a while either spoke. Then, do you feel it? She asked. Jack opened one eye. The quiet? No. The shift. He nodded once. We tipped something over. It won't stand again. Are we done? I don't know. A long pause. Alia leaned forward, elbows on knees, fingers laced. They called me a ghost. A killer. A myth. She looked at him. But I never wanted revenge. I just wanted the galaxy to stop thinking we were soft. They won't think that again, Jack said. Not for 1,000 years. Later, an encrypted transmission slipped through every known communication network, human and alien alike. A message. No sender. Just an echo. This is the price of forgotten blood. This is Earth's final diplomacy. You opened the door. And we walked through it. The galaxy adjusted. Not with war. With fear. Treaties began rewriting themselves. Borders retracted. Pirate groups operating near human space vanished. Alien warlords sent peace emissaries instead of fleets. The official designation for Earth was updated in Drog archives. Class Z Extinction World. Do not provoke. Do not approach. Do not forget. Back in Earth orbit, inside the UNS Covenant, General Lee recorded the final debrief. This was never a war, she said to the recorders. It was a reckoning. They thought we were finished. Thought the old ghosts were gone. They weren't. She paused. They just needed a reason. The final scene was quiet. A girl, no older than 10, walked through a training compound on Ganymede. She wore a basic cadet uniform. Her feet were bare. Her steps were silent. On her back, a patch. A simple insignia of 2 shadows. She stopped at a statue, black stone shaped into 2 figures standing side by side. One held a blade. The other, a detonator. Below them, words carved deep. They killed 99 million. We gave them nightmares. We became the dark. She touched the stone gently. Boogeyman, she whispered. Then, Baba Yaga.